A strange black car and a person who appears to be suffering from severe constipation interrupt the quiet streets of New York. It turns out that a group of thieves are robbing a jewelry store and beating up a clearly underpaid security guard. They grab whatever they can and run into the car, hoping to get away before the police come. They are unaware that a superpowered entity is approaching them, and before they can celebrate their win, the car is lifted into the air. The Superman drives the vehicle across the skies and dumps it directly in front of the police station. The woman flies away into the air, and everyone cheers for their hero G-Girl. The superhero's good deeds gradually spread, gaining the attention of Matthew and his best friend Vaughn, who struggles to avoid being a simp for more than 7 seconds. Their chat is interrupted when Vaughn spots a lovely lady in the bedroom who appears to be a conservative librarian but is quite liberal. The man urges Matthew to flirt with the woman, eventually persuading him to disgrace himself for everyone's entertainment. Matthew attempts to strike up a conversation but only receives a soul-sucking stare and a big fat no before he can finish speaking. Fortunately, before the embarrassment can continue, a robber steals the woman's pocketbook and dashes for the door, while Matthew follows closely behind. The culprit races past the passengers in the station and onto the streets, but Matt refuses to give up because the reward of being laid is more essential than his dignity. The thief eventually gets into a car, forcing him to flee, and Matthew finally gets the ticket for his date while insulting a criminal and trying to be an alpha male. However, the thief returns after the nasty statements, letting Matthew understand that he is nothing more than a beta, and flees like a genuine coward. The man discovers a garbage can and rushes inside like a famished raccoon, but the opponent begins hitting the container non-stop. He emerges from cover, ready to battle, but sees just the woman, who is perplexed by the man's weapon choice. Matthew holds out the bag as if he has won the lottery and finally gets the woman's name, which turns out to be Jenny, and she agrees to eat dinner with him later that night. The woman is quickly revealed to be the superhero G-Girl as she leaves the criminal dangling on the staircase. Matthew returns to work at his architectural firm, where a stunning woman named Hannah clearly has a crush on him. The man obviously wants the girl badly, looking at her female attributes, but their man-hating boss rushes in at the worst possible time, exposing Matthew as a closet pervert. Later that night, Matthew goes on a date with Jenny, and their conversation rapidly turns to third base, despite the woman's assurances that she is quite conservative. Jenny's uneasy conversations are abruptly interrupted when she hears police sirens in the vicinity. The woman quickly excuses herself to the restroom, leaving Matthew perplexed and humiliated, wondering if she had noticed him covertly passing gas beneath the table. Matthew hastily phones his friend for assistance in resolving the matter, but Vaughn is plainly preoccupied by the burning buildings on the street. Suddenly, G-Girl appears from the sky and begins spinning at breakneck speed, conjuring a massive tornado that sucks all of the fire away from the structure. Despite being covered in black dust, the woman rapidly flies away and returns to her date as everyone cheers her name. Jenny rushes back to the restaurant and returns to Matthew after a long absence, but the man discovers a smudge mark on her face that appears out of place. To deflect the man's attention away from any suspicions, Jenny resolves to demonstrate her literal side later that night, then start French kissing right away while the woman climbs Matthew like a tree sloth and then go into the bedroom so Jenny can demonstrate him her favorite sort of workout. What they don't realize is that a bizarre-looking bird is peeping outside the couple's window and turning scary robotic eyes. It turns out that the drone is transmitting their every movement to a mysterious peeping Tom, who clearly values other people's privacy as much as Mark Zuckerberg. As the two prepare for their bedroom rodeo, the woman physically rips off the man's garments and throws his pants away like a flying bullet. Jenny begs to be on top and begins rocking her bedroom like an earthquake and slamming the bed into the wall, heightening the danger. Matthew tries to withstand this incredibly forceful hugging, but it only becomes scarier as the woman breaks the bed to bits. The next morning, Matthew walks to work like he needs a lower body replacement, but the smile from his face shows that the injury was all worth it. However, his celebration is quickly ended when a bunch of shady gangsters push him into a car, where he meets the peeping Tom from before. It turns out that the man's name is Barry, and he wants to know everything about Matthew's new girlfriend. The main character refuses to give out any information about Jenny, causing the criminals to tie him upside down in a Statue of Liberty and blackmailing G-Girl at the same time. The ropes on Matthew's foot eventually untees and drops him towards the ground, but the superhero manages to catch him just in time as she carries him across the sky. The criminals take the chance to break into Jenny's apartment like a bunch of creepy stalkers, and Barry goes to the woman's bathroom to collect her hair in order to continue his evil plans. After being saved by G-Girl, Matthew questions Jenny about why a supervillain is asking for her information, and the woman realizes that she can't hide her secret identity anymore. She puts Matthew on a chair and begins taking off her clothing in front of him, eventually removing her weight as well, making the man realizes that she's the one who saved him earlier. Jenny tells the main character that Barry used to be her friend in high school, and they slowly fell in love as time went on. One night, the two saw a giant asteroid fly by across the sky and went to examine the impact only to see a massive glowing rock on the ground that's surrounded by flames. Instead of calling the police, Jenny decided to touch the object using her own hand, causing the rock to explode into a million pieces. Surprisingly, the two are not injured by explosion, and the girl's body begins changing dramatically, especially where it's the most important. Jenny immediately becomes popular with all the kids, but also begins ignoring her boyfriend at the same time. The girl started dating the most handsome boy in school, while Barry felt a deep sadness as he cried inside the rain. Realizing that his girlfriend is actually a superhero, Matthew immediately comes up with some naughty fantasies as Jenny rushes to change into her G-Girl's costume. The woman goes towards the man as she prepared to punish him for being a bad boy and grabs onto Matthew like toy poodle as they fly into the sky. Jenny hovers above tallest buildings and begins demanding her boyfriend to perform under the extreme duress. They begin dropping towards the ground in blinding speed as they fly across the buildings and head onto the streets, nearly giving the people heart attacks while rushing across the sky. At the same time, Barry is experimenting on the hair that he obtained from G-Girl, as it appears to be nearly indestructible, breaking the saw blade and almost killing his henchman. The man then takes out a stone that appears to suck out all the energy away from the hair, nullifying the superpowers as he easily cuts the material into pieces. Sometimes later, Matthew is supervising a construction site alongside Hannah, and he notices a splinter in his finger. The woman quickly offers to use her oral abilities and sucks it out from the man's body, demonstrating that her special skills can be utilized in other situations as well. Surprisingly, the whole thing was witnessed by Jenny as she followed Matthew like the overly attached girlfriend and immediately marks her territory by using her saliva. The man tries to fix the awkward situation by offering a double date with Hannah's boyfriend, which they all quickly agree to. However, on the night of the gathering, the girl's boyfriend never showed up, causing Jenny to look at her competition using her poisonous glares. Everything takes a terrible turn when the news begins broadcasting about a Rouge missile that's heading towards the city, forcing Jenny to leave the restaurant as she charges out in anger. Just when the people are becoming hopeless, G-Girl shows up in the news and deflects the missile away from the town, causing everyone to cheer in victory as they're all finally saved. Matthew hugs Hannah in the moment of celebration, but this is witnessed by Jenny from outside the restaurant, causing her to be filled by resentment. Jenny tries exposing the man's feelings for his co-worker, but Matthew denies everything, which angers the woman even more as she smashes the car window into pieces. The girl confesses her overwhelming love towards the man, but Matthew can't help but feel frightened by the woman as he now understands that he's in serious trouble. Later that night, after drinking some alcohol like he's about to be executed, Matthew conjures up the courage to break off his relationship with Jenny. The man quickly realizes that he might have missed the conversation as he stares at the woman's kitchen knife, but soon understands that the weapon should be the least of his worries. Jenny flips the table towards Matthew in anger and blows the man while using her superpowers, but this time it was not in the fun way. She unleashes her rage by turning the man's goldfish into sashimi, but Matthew is able to save his pet from the boiling water and throws it into the sink. Jenny promises that she'll get her vengeance before blasting off into the air and leaving a giant hole on the roof, while Matthew questions what he should do next. The next day, Matthew goes to work and tells Hannah everything about the breakup, but before he can confess his feelings for the woman, the crazy girlfriend appears outside the window. The man pushes Hannah down to save her life, while G-Girl rushes away from the building, but his trigger-happy manager sees this and begins giving Matthew even more trouble. Luckily, he's rescued by a phone call from the security, who notifies him that his car has been stolen in the most ridiculous way, which left a giant hole in the garage. The man goes home later that night to prepare for his presentation, but suddenly, all the lights turn off, and Jenny crashes into the building through the same roof that Matthew just fixed. The woman walks towards the telescope and shows Matthew her latest work of art, and the man realizes that his car is currently floating in space with new decorations on the sides. Matthew becomes furious at his ex-girlfriend and tells her that she's crazy, causing Jenny to barbecue the man's face before flying out in rage. While trying to regain his balance, the man looks into the mirror in shock as he sees his little Johnson carved into his forehead. The man has no choice but to go to the presentation wearing a hat the next day. Before Matthew can begin the speech, a shadow flashes by the window, and his face turns completely white as he starts having an ominous feeling about his near future. G-Girl rushes into the building and enters the room while causing a twister inside the area as all the papers fly into the air. When everything finally settles, the people stare at the man in shock as he stands naked in front of all his clients, which causes him to get fired by his boss. Matthew is forced to leave the building like a lunatic, but Hannah feels extremely sorry for the man as she invites him to go to her place. It turns out that the girl also broke up with her boyfriend recently, as she caught him in bed with multiple women at the same time. Matthew tries to comfort his friend and reveals that he's always had feelings for her, causing Hannah to kiss the man passionately as they fall onto the ground. The man is finally able to exercise in the bedroom without breaking his hips like an old man, but the fun quickly ends when they hear a woman shouting from the outside. Matthew goes to open the blinds only to see his ex-girlfriend, who throws a giant shark towards him, as it breaks through the window and lands inside the room. The man runs desperately for his life while the animal nearly bites off his family jewels, but Matthew is able to evade the shark's attack and causing it to crash out onto the streets. Realizing that this is becoming serious, the main character tells Hannah to leave town immediately, while he rushes out from the room, leaving the woman in utter confusion. Matthew decides to go to Barry's house so that he can ask the supervillain for help, but surprisingly discovers a shrine inside the room that's dedicated to Jenny. However, he's quickly pulled away by the henchman as Barry rushes in to close the door. Matthew begs the man to help him stop his crazy ex-girlfriend, and Barry shows him the large asteroid which is capable of completely neutralizing the woman's powers. The only thing that they need now is a coward who Jenny will never feel threatened by, to lure her into the opening. The next day, Matthew goes to the woman while carrying flowers and apologizes to Jenny immediately, claiming that he still has feeling for her. After investigating the man like a naughty puppy, the woman immediately forgives him and agrees to another date, while Matthew prays for his life. Jenny visits the man's apartment later that night and is surprised to find all of the preparations he made, particularly the large present on the table. The two proceed to eat dinner while Barry observes everything in the parking lot, but they are unaware that Hannah has also arrived, searching for Matthew's whereabouts. The girl enters the balcony only to discover that her boyfriend is having sex with the enemy. Matthew attempts valiantly to explain the issue to Hannah, but like a true politician, he simply upsets everyone. Things get much worse when Vaughn appears out of nowhere like a cockroach, and the two women quickly turn violent toward one another, prompting Hannah to rip Jenny's wig and disclose her true identity. Matthew tries to break up the argument while calling for his friend to open the box, and Vaughn promptly takes out the present. As Matthew apologizes profusely, the stone begins to absorb all of G-Girl's vitality, leading her to tumble to the ground. Barry rushes into the building, and the man begins ridiculing Jenny for losing her talents, but the villains always talk too long, allowing Matthew to intervene with his friend. Jenny seizes the opportunity and attempts to regain her powers, but Hannah rushes in to stop her, resulting in a massive explosion that propels the ladies out from the building. Before they can rescue Hannah from the fall, G-Girl regains her ability and levitates into the air, striking Matthew with enormous force, sending him tumbling to the ground. Just as Jenny is about to finish the man, Hannah begins to fly out of the building after absorbing the powers, and the two collide in the sky while fighting hard. Hannah pulls her opponent onto a car, but Jenny is able to retaliate swiftly, pushing the girl away and crashing into a billboard. Hannah, on the other hand, recovers fast, flying to the ground and grabbing a street sign before knocking the woman into the cars. This enrages Jenny even more, so she grabs onto a vehicle and throws it across the street, just missing the people as it smashes into the store. The two women begin to spiral into strong twists as they collide, resulting in the most lethal catfight in human history. They eventually land in a fashion show where everyone is shocked, but the fight is swiftly broken up by Matthew, who informs them that they are terrified the audience. The man apologizes to Jenny for ending their relationship, but explains that she deserves someone far better than himself, and that someone has always been in front of her. Matthew says that despite his actions, Barry has always loved her, as seen by the shrine in his home. Jenny is surprised to hear this and demands to know the truth, so Barry finally tells her that he merely wanted to take away her powers so she could love him again. Realizing that the man has always loved her, the two embrace passionately as everyone cheers in jubilation, and Matthew seizes the opportunity to leave with his girlfriend. The two waste no time in demonstrating their mating ritual using superpowers, with the girl knocking the bed against the wall, finally bursting into the other apartment and transforming their bed into a weapon of immense destruction. The following day, Matthew goes to work with Hannah and is shocked to find Jenny, who has finally chosen to return the man's automobile from outer space as a peace offering. However, when the women hear disturbance in the neighborhood, they transform into superhero costumes and fly away into the sky, leaving their partners with their purses. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.